Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to get your minds blown? Today, we're diving into something that's really going to challenge how we think about, well, everything.
Yeah, we're talking about the idea that maybe, just maybe, information is even more fundamental than energy. Like, what if information is the real building block of the universe?
Seriously, my brain is already starting to hurt.
I know, right? But that's what makes it so exciting. This is a deep dive into some seriously mind-bending territory.
Okay, so, to start us off, something relatable. Waves. They're literally everywhere, carrying energy, carrying information across, massive distances.
Totally. Like, we're talking light waves from stars billions of miles away, sound waves vibrating our eardrums, even those tiny quantum waves, the ones that determine how particles behave. It's wild.
And it's like no matter how big or small the wave, they're always like super efficient at transmitting like both energy and information. It's almost like a universal language.
Right. And that's what gets really interesting. If waves are just like the carriers, right, like delivery trucks, what are they actually carrying? What's that fundamental cargo?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, and this is where things start to get a little, well, mind-blowing. Some physicists believe that cargo might actually be information.
Information, you mean like not energy itself, but the blueprint, the instructions, the code that shapes energy?
Precisely. And that's where we start challenging some of the, core assumptions of traditional physics. What if, and this is a big what if, energy isn't the primary driver of the universe, but just a consequence of how information is, like, structured and processed.
Okay, I'm going to need a visual here. How does information actually do anything in the physical world?
Let's try a little thought experiment, all right? Imagine you're shining a laser pointer across a wall. Just a regular laser pointer.
Got it. Got my laser, got my wall. What's next?
Start moving the laser. You'll notice the spot on the wall moves too, right?
Yeah, pretty basic laser pointer stuff. What's so special about that?
The thing is, that spot, it can actually move faster than the speed at which you're moving the laser. And if the wall's far enough away, that spot, it could even look like it's moving faster than the speed of light.
Whoa, wait a minute. Faster than light. That's like physics 101.
Yeah.
Nothing can travel faster than light.
Right. And Einstein is still right. The key here is that no physical object is actually breaking the speed limit. It's just the projection, the information carried by the light beam that's creating this illusion of superluminal speed.
Okay, phew. Crisis averted. But still, that's trippy. What's the point of this whole laser thing? How does it relate back to, like, information shaping energy?
This thought experiment, it kind of shows how the way information is structured, it can actually influence how energy shows up in the physical world. The energy of the beam, it stays the same, but the way the information, the light is projected, it creates this effect that seems impossible.
So it's not just about raw energy, it's about like the information that's embedded within that energy, how it's encoded and projected.
Yeah.
That's, wow. Could we manipulate that? Could we use that somehow?
That's the question, right? What if we take this a step further and tilt the wall at an angle?
Okay, tilted wall. Now what?
Now, when you move that laser across the angled wall, the spot, it moves even faster. It's covering more distance in the same amount of time, so it seems like it's doing more work. But you haven't changed the energy output of the laser at all.
This is like a physics brain teaser. More work with the same energy.
How? It's all about the role of information. By changing the angle, you've changed how the information in that light beam is structured, and that changes how the energy manifests in the physical world.
So the same energy can do more or less work depending on the information guiding it. That has huge EE implications.
Exactly. And to really dig into this, we got to bring in one of the big guys of physics, Fermat's principle.
Okay, Fermat's principle. Something about light taking the path of least time, right? Didn't we learn that in high school physics?
Yep, that's the one. But here's where it gets wild. What if least time is actually just a consequence of taking the path that's most information efficient?
Wait, you're saying Fermat's principle, like a fundamental law of physics, is just a special case of a larger principle, one that's all about information?
We're going there. It doesn't mean Fermat was wrong. It works great in tons of situations, but maybe it's a simplification of a deeper principle, something governing information flow and how that relates to energy.
So instead of knowing the shortest path, it's actually taking the path that's best for transferring information. Mind blown.
It's a pretty radical shift, right? And if we really embrace this idea that information is fundamental, then energy, it becomes a kind of manifestation of how information is structured.
I'm trying to picture this. So instead of the universe being like a giant pool of energy, it's more like a cosmic computer, constantly processing information. And energy is just one of the outputs.
That's a fantastic way to think about it. And if that's true, everything we thought we knew about energy, like entropy, thermodynamics, quantum states, all of it becomes a consequence of how information is stored, processed, and transferred.
Whoa. That's a pretty massive shift in perspective.
Yeah.
But if we accept this, like, radical idea, what does it mean in practice? Can we actually harness energy by, like, manipulating information?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? And the answer might just be a big fat yes. This could open up a whole new world of energy, like systems that don't need fuels and stuff, but instead tap into like the structure of information itself.
Okay, you're killing me. What would those, like, information-powered systems even look like? Be specific.
Well, one idea that's really cool, I think, is something we might call resonant information fields. Imagine creating fields, right, where just the way information is arranged, it actually affects quantum coherence. It's like unlocking these hidden pockets of energy, like right there in the quantum vacuum, by aligning quantum states through structured information.
Wait, hold on. Back up a sec. You're talking about the quantum vacuum, that sea of virtual particles. Isn't that, like, theoretical? Can we even mess with that?
Oh, it's definitely on the speculative edge, but there are hints in quantum physics that, it might be possible. The quantum vacuum, it's supposed to be incredibly dense with energy, but it's also super chaotic. So the trick is figuring out how to structure that chaos, like how to impose order and actually get usable energy out of it.
So it's kind of like trying to harness the energy of a hurricane, but instead of wind and rain, we're dealing with, like, quantum fluctuations. How do we even start?
That's where information comes in. One thought is building information-guided vacuum energy harvesters. Basically, devices that use information maybe in the form of super precise electromagnetic fields or like patterns of matter to interact with the quantum vacuum in a way we can control.
So kind of like an antenna tuned to pick up a specific frequency, but instead of radio waves, we're picking up, like, energy from the quantum vacuum.
You got it. And it's not just about like tapping into energy that's already there. What if we could create energy just by manipulating information? Remember how we were talking about entropy, how it's a measure of lost information?
Yeah, entropy always increases. The universe gets messier.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what they taught us.
Exactly. But like, what if we could reverse entropy locally by structuring information in a very specific way? It'd be like pulling order out of chaos, getting usable energy without, breaking thermodynamics.
Whoa, wait, are you saying we could break the laws of thermodynamics?
Not break, maybe. Bend. Maybe thermodynamics is like a set of rules that emerge because of how information is structured on a big scale. So by messing with information at a really fundamental level, we could maybe influence those rules in ways we never thought possible.
So not magic, but more like understanding the universe's operating system and then, like, rewriting the code a little.
Haha, that's a great way to put it. And here's another path we could go down. Quantum-tuned lattice structures. Imagine designing materials, but their information structure is so specific, it lets electrons move through them with almost zero resistance.
I'm picturing, like, a super highway for electrons, no traffic jams, no accidents. What would that even do?
Oh, it would be revolutionary. We could create super efficient power grids, energy just flows, like no loss. Computers that don't generate heat, batteries that store crazy amounts of energy.
This is getting kind of sci-fi, but in a good way. It feels like we're about to unlock, like, a whole new level of technology.
We might be, and it all comes back to this idea, seeing information as the real engine of the universe.
But all this talk about information and energy, it makes me think about another big mystery. Consciousness. Does this new understanding, does it tell us anything about that?
That's a question that's been around forever, right? And we don't have all the answers, but this information perspective, it gives us some pretty cool possibilities. What if consciousness itself is like a super complex, organized flow of information?
So instead of our brains making consciousness, our brains are more like receivers or transceivers. Tuning into consciousness, that's like a pattern of information out there somewhere.
It's worth thinking about. If that were true, consciousness might not be limited to our brains. It could be like a fundamental property of the universe woven right into the fabric of reality.
Wow, okay, that's a bit of a head trip. It means consciousness could exist,
Yeah.
like, without bodies, maybe even after death.
That's an idea that's been around in, spiritual traditions for a long time. From a science viewpoint, we're still babies when it comes to understanding consciousness. We don't even know what it is, let alone how it works.
So consciousness.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like the ultimate mystery, the final frontier.
It could very well be. But even if we never fully figure it out, just trying to understand, that's valuable. By pushing the boundaries of what we know and questioning our assumptions about reality, we learn more about ourselves and the universe we live in.
Okay, before my brain completely melts, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about energy systems, consciousness as information. But what about the really wild stuff? Like, is reality itself just a giant information simulation?
That's a question more and more physicists and philosophers are asking. If information is the foundation, then maybe space and time, they're not the bedrock of reality we've always assumed.
Okay, whoa. So if space and time aren't the stage, what are they? And where does information fit in?
Imagine a massive network processing information, kind of like a cosmic internet, right? The interactions between bits of information, that's what creates space-time as we experience it.
So instead of particles moving through space-time itself, it emerges from the connections between information. Like the universe is one giant self-organizing network of pure information.
That's the idea. And this opens up some crazy possibilities. If space-time isn't fixed, maybe there are, like shortcuts, back alleys, through information space. That could mean faster than light travel, maybe even time manipulation.
Okay, now we're definitely in science fiction territory. But I gotta admit, the idea of warping space-time with information, that's pretty cool. Is there any science that even hints at that being possible?
There are some really, really early theories in quantum gravity that suggest maybe space-time comes from entanglement between quantum particles. So if that's true, messing with entanglement could be how we mess with space-time.
Entanglement, that spooky action at a distance that Einstein wasn't too fond of.
The one and only. It's one of the weirdest parts of quantum mechanics, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at it through the lens of information, it kind of makes more sense. Entanglement could be how information gets shared instantly across like huge distances, ignoring the limits of space-time as we understand it now.
So crack the entanglement code, and we could teleport across the galaxy.
Yeah.
Or like send messages back in time. This is some serious Back to the Future stuff.
Super speculative, definitely. But remember, atoms were once considered a crazy idea too. Science is full of examples of stuff that sounded nuts at first, but turned out to be revolutionary.
Good point.
Yeah.
Got to keep an open mind, especially when we're talking about the frontiers of, well, everything. But for now, let's bring it back down to Earth a little. We were talking about, like, actually using vacuum energy earlier. Are other scientists working on that right now?
It's bleeding edge stuff, for sure, but there are some pioneers out there giving it a shot. One approach is using what we call metamaterials. Those are artificial materials engineered to have properties we don't see in nature.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of metamaterials. They can do some crazy things with light and sound, right? But how would they help us get energy from the vacuum?
Well, metamaterials, they can be designed to interact with electromagnetic fields in very specific ways. So scientists are looking at whether we could build a metamaterial that resonates with a zero-point energy field. It'd be like an antenna for vacuum energy.
Like tuning a radio, but instead of a station, we're tuning into the quantum vacuum. That's wild.
It is, and it's not just metamaterials. Other folks are trying to use precisely structured laser pulses to, tickle the vacuum into giving up some energy. It's early days, but the potential is huge. This could be a total game changer for energy.
This is exciting, but also, a little scary. It feels like we're opening a Pandora's box. Lots of potential good stuff, but maybe some dangerous stuff too.
That's a fair point. Anytime we push the limits of what we know, we got to be careful, think about the consequences. But exploring, learning, that's part of being human. It's our responsibility to figure out the universe, even if it means facing the unknown with a mix of excitement and, well, a little fear.
Well said. And speaking of the unknown, there's one last biggie I want to hit before we wrap up. Consciousness.
Wow.
What is all this new stuff about information and energy? What does it tell us about consciousness? Could consciousness itself be a form of information?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Been debated forever, and we're far from a real answer. But I do think this information perspective, it gives us some really cool things to think about.
Okay, deep divers, we're back for the final stretch of this information and energy odyssey. And honestly, my brain is still buzzing from all the mind-blowing concepts we've been wrestling with.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride for sure, from Fermat's principle to vacuum energy and then diving into the nature of consciousness. It's a lot to process.
Totally. And while it's been super fascinating to explore all this theoretical stuff, I gotta know, what does it all mean for us, practically? How will this change our future, our tech, even how we see ourselves as humans?
The big questions. And yeah, we don't have all the answers, but we can definitely do some informed speculating. Let's start with the most obvious one, energy. If we can really figure out this whole information-guided energy thing, I mean, it could revolutionize everything. How we power our homes, how we travel, even, interstellar travel.
Okay, paint me a picture. What's this information-powered world going to look like? What kind of tech are we talking about?
Imagine, right, a world where we've finally tapped into the energy of the quantum vacuum. We could have devices in our homes pulling energy straight out of space-time, providing clean, limitless power for everything.
No more fossil fuels, no pollution, no more worrying about running out of energy. That sounds pretty utopian.
It does, doesn't it? And it's not just about having enough energy. If we can control energy at the information level, we could create devices and systems that are like ridiculously efficient, almost zero waste, maximum performance.
So we're talking like super efficient solar panels and batteries.
Yeah.
Computers that use almost no energy.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond energy. Think about materials. If we can design materials with specific information structures, we could create materials with like properties we've never even dreamed of. Super strong but ultralight materials, materials that can like heal themselves, or materials that change their properties whenever we want.
It's like we're going from messing with matter at the atomic level to messing with information at the quantum level. A whole new era of materials engineering and nanotech.
Right on. And this shift, it has the potential to like totally disrupt tons of industries. Aerospace, medicine, construction, and let's not forget about computing. We already have crazy, powerful computers, but what would information-based computing even look like?
Yeah, we talked about quantum computers earlier, but honestly, I'm still kind of lost on how those things actually work. Can you give me the ELI 5 version?
Sure. So like regular computers use bits, right? A bit can be a 0 or a 1. But quantum computers use qubits, and these can be 0, 1, or both at the same time, thanks to this freaky quantum thing called superposition. That means they can do calculations in parallel, which makes them like exponentially faster than regular computers for certain types of problems.
So we're talking about computers that can solve problems in seconds that would take our current computers, like, millions of years.
Yeah, something like that. And it's not just speed. Quantum computers could revolutionize cryptography, drug discovery, material science. Basically anything where we need to simulate super complex quantum systems.
Wow, okay. It sounds like we're talking about a whole new level of understanding and controlling the universe. But let's switch gears for a second, get a little more philosophical. If information is so fundamental, does that change how we think about like consciousness, free will, the meaning of life even?
Those are some seriously deep questions, and I don't claim to have the answers, but this new way of looking at information, it does open up some interesting possibilities. If consciousness is like a highly structured form of information, as we talked about earlier, then maybe it doesn't have to be stuck inside our brains.
So we're back to the idea that consciousness could exist outside of physical bodies, maybe even after death. That's a pretty wild thought.
It is. And if consciousness is basically information, then maybe it could be transferred or even copied, which brings up a whole bunch of ethical and philosophical questions about, identity and what it even means to be an individual.
Whoa, okay. Yeah, things are getting pretty deep here. It sounds like this whole information thing, it's not just challenging our scientific models, it's challenging our very understanding of who we are and what our place is in all of this.
I think you're right. It's like we're standing on the shore of this vast, unexplored ocean of knowledge, and we're just starting to realize how deep it goes.
It's exciting and a little scary at the same time. But like you said before, exploring the unknown is what makes us human. We've got to keep asking questions, keep digging, even if it leads us to some uncomfortable or even like unsettling truths.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And who knows what amazing things we'll find on the other side of this information revolution? What kind of tech will we create? How much more will we learn about ourselves and the universe?
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about. But I think we've given our listeners plenty to chew on for now. It's been an awesome journey exploring these ideas with you.
The feeling's mutual. And to everyone listening out there, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep questioning. The universe is a pretty amazing place, full of mysteries just waiting to be uncovered.
Well said. And on that note of cosmic mystery and endless possibility, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep wondering, and keep your minds wide open.